Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Good evening and welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider Television. Across the studio from Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, and we continue to work at a safe social distance here in our studio inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Now, the only thing that could contain Alabama's offense on Saturday night was the actual Mercedes-Benz Stadium, because they played with the roof closed, so they were inside in the Dome in Atlanta, because the Alabama offense was getting it done. The Tide put up some record-setting numbers in the 52-46 win over East Division champ Florida to win the SEC championship. Some of the numbers: Alabama had 35 points by halftime, which is the most a team has ever scored in the first half of an SEC championship game. Receiver Devontae Smith finished with 15 catches, the most a Tide receiver has ever had in a single game. Smith also had 2 touchdown catches, giving him 17 for the season. That's an Alabama single-season record. Running back Najee Harris became Alabama's all-time rushing yards leader, passing the great Derrick Henry. He finished with 178 rushing yards, and he scored 5 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 3 in the air. That breaks an SEC championship game record, previously held by Auburn running back Trey Mason. Harris had 2 rushing TDs, as I said, 3 in the air, and he has more TDs than any Alabama player in history. He hopes that it shows once and for all that he's a complete running back.
It's just because I'm a running back, so people don't expect it because of the running back name. The slogan is like, okay, well, can he catch? But, I mean, come on now. I've been catching the ball since I was in the fetus position. Come on now. I'm a ride out.
He is a ride out. And, Rodney, that offensive performance was breathtaking on Saturday night. And more on the game in the moment, but I do want to ask you, because you look at Alabama, and it's rare that this happens. I think in 1974 or 73 maybe, Ohio State had 3 players invited to the ceremony. But Alabama has 3 Heisman Trophy candidates: Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, and Najee Harris. What do you make of this, and do you think having so many hurts one in particular?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's just what do I think about it? Incredible recruiting. I mean, think about all these guys, Gary. They came in the same recruiting class. Amazing, that recruiting class that they put together in 2017. Tua, Jerry Jeudy, Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris. All of these guys, Alex Leatherwood, who starts at left tackle, several other players that are still playing. So, it was a great recruiting class. These guys, you look at them, the thing that really stands out to me, you look at Najee Harris, 5-star running back. His career, if you kind of look at it, maybe started a little slowly. A lot of people had high expectations of him early, but he hung in there, developed, waited his turn, and now it's really paid off for him. You look at Mac Jones, same thing, hung in there, developed, it's paid off for him. Devontae Smith, what a career he's had. I mean, 2nd and 26, has just had an incredible career, Gary. And, the good thing is it's not done yet.
Rodney, Alabama won the game. That's the bottom line. They gave up some points, but the offense, again, it's averaging right at 50 points a game. It got 52. And we've seen a lot of really good offenses around here in the last few years. We saw some great ones under Coach Bryant. That wishbone could be breathtaking in the 70s when they would rush for 600, even 700-plus yards. Is this the best offense in Alabama football history, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's certainly, there's probably not been a better one. I think you have to really look at that 1973 offense. You mentioned the wishbone. I mean, they were a really fantastic team, went 11-0. And if you remember, they lost to Notre Dame in what amounted to the national championship game in the Sugar Bowl. But, I think the 77, when you look back at that offense, you had Jeff Rutledge at quarterback. You had Tony Nathan. You had Johnny Davis. You had Ozzie Newsome. I mean, that was, when you're talking about a wishbone offense that could throw the football, I mean, Jeff Rutledge was a tremendous passer, obviously, spent many years in the NFL. Ozzie Newsome, one of the greatest tight ends of all time, but he also played some wide receiver here at times. Johnny Davis, we mentioned him, the running game that they had. So that was a tremendous offense as well. Again, a different era, but it was certainly a great offense.
Yeah, and even just the last couple of years prior to this one, but this one has certainly been special. Well, it wasn't all great news, though, for the offense. On Saturday night, during Alabama, really on their last touchdown of the game. Landon Dickerson, the great center, went down with a knee injury. He was carted off and did not return to play on Sunday. Nick Saban stated the bad news that the starting center is out for the rest of the season after an MRI revealed ligament damage. I think he's one of, forget just center, I think he's the best offensive lineman in the country. I mean, I think for what he's done for this team, and he's going to be hard to replace. Rodney, Coach Saban talked about the loss of Landon Dickerson and said, he's an emotional leader for the team. Now, Rodney, Alabama is in better shape than most teams would be. They've got Chris Owens, who's played a lot of football at center and at tackle as well. He'll step in, but this is a guy who, in addition to touching the ball on every snap like the quarterback, as I said, he's kind of the leader of that offensive football team.
Well, there's no question up front. He is certainly the leader. Gary, look, you've been watching this a long time. I don't really recall many times when you have a player injured when the whole team comes out there as they're leaving the field. That shows you what they feel about Landon Dickerson, how they feel about him. And, certainly he's been a leader the last 2 years up front, and it's going to be a huge loss. But you mentioned Chris Owens, a really smart guy out of Arlington, Texas, a guy that he's had a lot of experience here playing different positions. And this isn't the first time this happened. We talked about this on your radio show the other day. 2017, Lester Cotton goes down. J.C. Hassenauer steps in at guard, starts the national championship game, plays really, really well. In the third quarter, early in the third quarter of that game, Jonah Williams goes down at left tackle. Alex Leatherwood, a true freshman, comes in, plays an incredibly fantastic game for a true freshman. So this is a kind of that thing that Nick Saban always talks about, that next man up philosophy that he has, and I think the players really buy into it. Now's an opportunity for Chris Owens, who, by the way, against Arkansas, started at right tackle with Evan Neal out.
Sure did. He played a lot of football. Well, it's time now for Coach Talk. This is a much quicker turnaround than usual between the SEC championship game and the college football playoff semifinals. But Nick Saban says he doesn't think that's a problem.
We don't have a long break like we usually do, but which obviously helps you get healthy with some of the players that have issues at this time of the season, which football players always do. But we're going to try to use this week to get those guys ready to go, and use this week as a little bit of preparation, give our players a few days, 3 days off, and come back and have a pretty normal week.
All right, Ronnie, next week we'll preview this game in depth, but we'll touch on some of the tidbits there. You see the four that made it in, Clemson and Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl, Alabama and Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl being played in Arlington. Alabama opened as a 17.5-point favorite. It's already up to 20 at some places. AT&T Stadium in Dallas can have 16,000 fans, which is why the committee said it put Alabama there instead of New Orleans, which will only allow 3,000 fans because of COVID-19 protocols. So, Rodney, I guess Alabama gets the advantage of having more fans, but they don't get the shorter trip. Even though they're 4-0 at AT&T, they've got a great history in New Orleans. What do you think about the Tide playing in the Dallas area rather than in the New Orleans area?
Listen, I really like it. I do. I think Alabama's had a lot of really good games out there, a lot of those openers that they've played that had a lot of success. I think the venue is incredible in Dallas. I personally, I favor that over New Orleans.
All right, we'll talk much more about this game next week. Well, some of college football's postseason awards narrowed their list, and Alabama's one of 3 finalists for the Joe Moore Award, given to the best offensive line in college football, along with Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Here's some other individual honors for Tide players that they're up for. Alex Leatherwood's up for the Atlan Trophy. Mac Jones and Devontae Smith for the Maxwell Award. Mac Jones also for the Davey O'Brien Award. Smith for the Biletnikoff Award. Will Reichard the Lou Groza Award. And that's something. He hadn't missed a kick all year, extra point or field goal. Alabama has never had a kicker win the Lou Groza. Patrick Surtain, the Jim Thorpe Award, and the Chuck Bednarik Award. Najee Harris, the Doak Walker Award. Ronnie, this is what you expect when you have the best team in the country, plenty of awards. But I want to ask you about Nick Saban. He was named today as the SEC Coach of the Year. He's a finalist for the Eddie Robinson Award, which he has won, but he's also a finalist for the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year Award, which obviously is special here at Alabama. He's never won it here. He won it at LSU in 2003. I mean, I'm just blown away. I say this every year, that he's never won the Bear Bryant Award. 5 national championships here. Are you kidding me? Maybe this will be the year, because he's done a remarkable job.
Yeah, I think so, Gary. And I think this. I think right now you have to look at it, and we said this before the season started, that we thought Alabama would be very successful this year because of Nick Saban, the manager. how he manages circumstances and situations and all the things, all the turmoil that we were facing, you know, with the virus and the various situations and circumstances heading into the summer. And he just has done a fantastic job. And I think this is probably not only his best job, but his best job because it's been in maybe the most difficult circumstances.
Indeed. I think he's been remarkable, and I hope he wins that Bear Bryant Award this year. If not now, when? Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama basketball gears up for a final tune-up before beginning SEC play. And we'll rewind back to National Signing Day, where the Crimson Tide may have even exceeded expectations, if that's possible. That's not easy to do, but I think Bama did it. And we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. We welcome you to go ahead and call in now so you can get on the line. You can email us at the address on your screen, or you can tweet at us. Use the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one, the only, Tider Insider TV. And welcome back to TITV. I'm Gary Harris, sitting across the studio from Tider Insider's Rodney Orr. There's a clear winner in last week's recruiting sweepstakes, early signing day for football here in December, and it was the Crimson Tide. Imagine that. On the first day of the national signing period, Alabama put together the top-rated class in the country. Alabama signed its 22 commits, plus got 2 flips from LSU. Rodney, we know who the 22 commits were, so let's talk about linebacker, outside pass rusher Keanu Coate from down in Florida, and wide receiver JoJo Earle of Aledo High School in Texas, the same high school of Tide running back Jace McClellan. These 2 flips from LSU really energized the Alabama fan base, and with good reason.
Well, you know, we talked about Keanu Coate last week, Gary. We put you on alert with our viewers that watch out for that potential flip. And, you know, the next morning got a tip that JoJo Earle out of Aledo, Texas, who, you know, you hate to compare people, Gary, but he's got a little bit of Jalen Waddle in him. He's a fantastic player. But JoJo Earle got a tip on him and talked to his coach, Tim Buchanan, out there at Aledo High School, who told me that they were just waiting on Coach Saban to give him that firm spot in the class. And guess what? It happened. This is a tremendous player. Obviously, Alabama was waiting on the decision of Xavier Worthy, who had been committed to Michigan. But, you know, Gary, to me, I think Alabama might have gotten the better end of the deal with JoJo Earle. He's got a tremendous attitude. He's a guy that plays in a winning program. They're going for their 10th state championship. That's more state championships than any school in the history of the state of Texas. So he plays with a winner. He understands what it takes to be successful.
And, Rodney, it's an incredible class to keep those 22 commits and get them signed, and 24 total. And now it looks like Alabama could get a present on Christmas as well with another potential player in this class.
Yeah, and another Texan, Gary. I mean, what a job Alabama's done recruiting the state of Texas. You look at Tommy Brockemeyer, James Brockemeyer, Jalen Milroe, Kendrick Blackshire. We talked about JoJo Earle. And now Jaden Roberts, who is out of North Shore High School in the Galena Park, Texas, which is Houston. And again, he has a teammate here, true freshman offensive lineman Damian George. And Gary, this guy is 6'6", 370. His offensive line coach there in high school tells me, he said, have you ever seen a guy 6'6", 370 with a flat stomach? This guy is incredibly well built, tremendous prospect, was committed to Auburn. He'll announce his decision, as you said, Gary, at 3 o'clock on Friday.
And another great class for the Crimson Tide. It just keeps on keeping on. Basketball, Alabama in action tonight against East Tennessee State, their final non-conference game before opening conference play next Tuesday at home against Ole Miss. They lost a heartbreaker 73-71 against Western Kentucky at home on Saturday. Some confusion on whether that was a goaltend or a shot clock expiring. It was called a goaltend. Alabama fell behind by 2. Herb Jones missed. Then they didn't foul. They're 4-3. They will not have Rojas and Petty in uniform tonight. Coach's decision not to dress those two as they play East Tennessee. Highlights on the news at 10. And Alabama women's basketball really playing well. They finished off an unbeaten non-conference slate with a 74-68 road win at Memphis. They're 7-0. Jasmine Walker has scored over 1,000 points in her career, and they look really, really good. Great start for the Alabama women. Well, still to come on TITV, golfer Justin Thomas finds the win column again, this time with Dad. We'll explain. And up next, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-9882. Give us a call now. We'll be right back with Tider Insider TV after this. How about some golf? The father-son duo, Justin Thomas and his dad, Mike, won the PNC Championship at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club in Orlando. The first day they were paired with Tiger and Charlie Woods. Tiger and Charlie got all the headlines, but Justin and his dad won the event, and they lit it up on Sunday when they shot 15 under par, 25 under for the tournament. Congratulations to the Thomases. All right, we are back here on TITV, and we're ready to head to the phone line. Sammy, our good pal up in Walker County, leads us off tonight. What's up, Sammy?
Merry Christmas and happy holidays, Gary and Rodney.
Thank you, sir. Same to you.
You know, I've watched Alabama football a few more years than y'all have, simply because I'm a little older. Let's talk about these special moments in time. And it raced through my mind, then it raced through my heart. The most special moment ever that I've ever experienced. It wasn't the injury, it was the after effect. And I saw what college football, fellowship, love, all good things, that was the most number one that I've ever experienced watching Alabama football. I just want to share that with y'all.
Well, I'm with you, pal, and Rodney and I talked about it. Listen, Landon Dickerson's one of those special guys. If he's on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, he can get under your skin. I mean, this is a compliment. I want to be careful in this politically correct society, Rodney, when I say this, but he's nasty. Mm-hmm. And that's a positive trait. I don't mean he's dirty. I just mean he's got an edge to him. And he plays hard, and he plays to win. And he's looking for an advantage on the football field. But he would, you could tell, do anything for his teammates. And Sammy's exactly right. The love they showed him when he went down with that injury, I agree, Sammy. That is what the game's all about. It's a brotherhood. It's a fellowship. Bonds are built for the rest of their lives. And anybody that's ever played sports, I think, or even if you haven't played sports, if that didn't move you a little bit, then you need to check the old ticker, because I'm with Sammy, Rodney. I thought it was a very heartfelt moment and poignant moment in that game, and tells you exactly what Landon Dickerson means to that football team.
Well, like I said earlier, I you know, watching football so many years, I was kind of rattling my brain trying to think if I ever seen anything like that, and I'm sure there have been, but I don't really recall anything quite like what you saw there. With all the players coming off the bench to kind of console him and wish him well and all that. It really tells you not only what a leader he is, but how they feel about him off the field. And again, go back to the value of having a guy like Chris Owens, who is extremely well liked too, by the way. And I think that Alabama's in good position moving forward.
All right, tell you what we're going to do. I want to make sure Reg gets his fair time, and they're rushing me a little bit, Reg, so we're going to go ahead and take the break. Reg, you stay on hold. We'll get to you right after the break, and maybe another phone call or email as well. This is Tider Insider TV. We'll be back after this. Let's check in on Bama in the NFL. The Dolphins' Tua Tagovailoa used his legs more than his left arm in Miami's win over New England. Tua scored 2 rushing touchdowns as the Dolphins ran the ball 42 times for 250 yards in a 22-12 win over the Pats. Pats are out of the playoffs. Rookie Jalen Hurts will remain the Philadelphia Eagles starting quarterback for Sunday's Week 16 game against the Cowboys after he lit it up against the Cardinals, throwing for 3 touchdowns, running for 1 in a 33-26 loss. He's the first player in NFL history with 500 passing yards and 150 rushing yards in his first 2 career starts. And Derrick Henry just keeps on being Derrick Henry. He goes for 147 yards and a touchdown in Tennessee's win over Detroit. The highlight, well, you're going to see it coming up here in just a moment. Another memorable stiff arm in an entire collection. I mean, he's got a video album of these. Watch Alex Myers go for a ride. Wow. Unbelievable. Henry makes the Pro Bowl. He's just 321 yards away from 2,000 with 2 games to play against the Packers and Texans. He could get there. All right, let's head right back out to the phone lines. Let's talk to Reg over in Beeham. Hey, Reg, how are you?
Thank you, Gary and Rodney. I'd like to ask you, both of you, Rodney, who's going to fill in for the center on the offensive team? Is he capable of giving us a good fill-in? The second thing is the place kicker at Alabama. He should be given the Dingleberry cluster for the way he's kicked this year.
All right. All right, Reg. Go ahead. One more. Okay, we got you. Start with, you've already talked a little bit about the center, but it looks like Chris Owens will step in there.
Yeah, you know, again, Nick Saban really loves experience. You know that, Gary, and again, Chris Owens has played quite a bit. Now, Darian Dalcourt is certainly a promising young player, too, that will get a lot of reps, certainly in practice, be prepared to play. And if they had to, they could shuffle things around. Emil Ekiyor at right guard is a guy that's played center. He's gotten a lot of reps there. So, they've got some options, certainly.
All right, thanks for the phone call, Reds. Let's get to an email. And we've got, we do or we don't? All right, let's go to an email real quickly here. Will Landon Dickerson be drafted this year and play in the NFL after his knee injury? Terry in Mountville. Yeah, Rodney, I think you will. He'll rehab. Listen, they've come a long way with knee injuries. He'll rehab. He's a good player. I expect him to be drafted and play in the NFL.
Yeah, I would think so, Gary. Now, the one thing about it is it certainly could impact him because this isn't his first injury. He's had, he spent his career at Florida State the first couple of years, and he had a lot of injuries there. Came here and until here recently did not have any issues, but it could certainly be impacted, but I agree with you. Yeah, he'll be drafted.
And, if he decided that he wanted to come back to Alabama, he could. This is a year where everybody can come back if they so choose. There's no eligibility counting against you in this season, although I do expect him to turn pro. All right, we'll be back. Thanks for the phone calls and emails. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this. All right, the Senior Bowl coming up in January down in Mobile, and Alabama long snapper Thomas Fletcher has accepted an invitation. Alabama's got a couple former long snappers in the NFL right now. He joins Deontay Brown and Landon Dickerson in the game. Obviously, Dickerson won't be able to play, but good for Thomas Fletcher. Man, I knock on wood, I never remember him ever having a bad snap, punts, or extra points or field goals. All right, that's going to do it for the program for tonight. Next week, join us as we will preview Alabama versus Notre Dame and have our score predictions. If you missed any of the program, you can catch the replay tonight at 10:30 on WVOA 23 or find it anytime at WVOA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Have a good night, everybody. We'll leave you with some more highlights from the SEC Championship game.